this was a doozy of a show, wasn't it? Yeah, Hell in a Cell 2019. A lot of reactions about this online, and so I'm probably going to get drowned out, especially due to the fact that it's going to be late. And I'm very, very tired as I'm recording this, so I'll try to make this as short as possible. But going into the show, this thing was just really poorly promoted. I mean, this was just an afterthought of a show, really. I mean, going into today, or the day the day the show took place, which was Sunday, they only announced 4 matches, and then suddenly, like 2 hours before the show, they added a whole bunch of matches, and then they added another one during the kickoff show, and it really didn't. Unfortunately, there were some high points. We did have one kickoff show match, and that was Lacey Evans taking on Natalya. Right on the bat, basically, Lacey Evans, because she's been using the sharpshooter as a finisher, and mocking Natalya by doing so, immediately started targeting Natalya's knee. There was a bit where she slammed Natalya's knee first into the ring steps, and then slanged it off the ring apron, slung her into the ring post, knee first as well. Basically softening up Natalya's knee. Every time Natalya tried to do an offense, Evans had a nice counter to it. At one point, Natty went for her discus forearm or discus punch, and Lacey Evans countered with a lariat. But eventually, Lacey went for her springboard moonsault. Natty got the knees up and managed to lock on the sharpshooter. And Lacey tapped out shortly after that. And then in celebration, Natty took a bow, she had her hand raised, and then she immediately turned around and gave the women's right to Lacey Evans. So, yeah, a decent little match, and it's setting up a last woman standing match. It's going to be on Raw, as I'm recording this tonight, Monday night on Raw. Like I said, a decent little match, not too terrible. It had its great moments, it told the story well. Probably should have actually been a feud ender, but I guess they want to continue this on. Okay, moving on to the show proper, we opened up with the Hell in a Cell match for the Raw Women's Championship, Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks. And yes, we have to endure the horrible-looking red Hell in a Cell now. I guess we're stuck with this for at least a few more years until they decide to redesign it again. Anyway, starting things off, I'll try to condense this down because this was a pretty long and detailed match, but evocative of the first women's Hell in a Cell match, Sasha Banks attacked Becky as the cage was being lowered, and they actually got to the outside, and there was a couple spots out there. Eventually, Becky rallied back. They got into the cell, and Becky actually took the chain that they were going to use to lock the door and wrapped it around her wrist and hit Sasha in the stomach a couple of times. Sasha came back, mounted up a chair in the cell wall, and then began pulling out kendo sticks. And at one point, though, a couple of times we had chair shots to the head, and again, if you remember my AEW Fyter Fest review, I don't really like that, and it's something that really shouldn't be done. It also had a couple kendo stick shots to the head as well, and that it does hold it back. But other than that, this was a really intense, really vicious match where they did a whole bunch of stuff. At one point, they had Becky set up 2 kendo sticks in the corner, no, Sasha set up 2 kendo sticks in the corner. But Becky came back and used a chair to sort of bridge, set up a chair using the kendo sticks to basically bridge it into the corner. She took Sasha, set it up on the chair, and then hit a running drop kick off of the ring apron, sending Sasha into the cage. And just, like I said, just vicious. Guillotine leg drop. Sasha hit a Meteora and knocked Becky back into the ladder. Becky hit the back of her head on the ladder rung. She hit a Meteora. Sasha hit another Meteora and sent Becky through a table. Sasha used a kendo stick to do the bank statement. Becky fought out of it. They began fighting through again. There was a backstabber into another maneuver. Becky set up a chair and did dropped toe hold into the chair and then did a running bulldog into the chair. And kind of from this, let me see here. At one point, Sasha, and this is where we get some more headshots, unfortunately. Sasha was trying to pile up some chairs, and she's literally throwing them into the ring as Becky is laying unconscious, and it's the idea that it's taking way too long. And it really was. But she kept throwing it in. You could see, like, Becky's literally covering her face like this, just trying to keep the chairs from hitting her. Unfortunately, a couple did catch her. But eventually, Sasha tried to do another Meteora, but Becky caught her and hit a Bexploder off the top rope, and then locked on the disarmor. Sasha landed on the chairs, and then Becky locked on the disarmor. And Sasha was trying to reach for one of the chairs, but eventually she gave up and tapped out. Becky celebrated in the ring, and Sasha went up, and they had this big close-up of her with a tear running down her face because she knew she, well, for lack of a better term, blew it. And yeah, this was, like I said, this was a really great match to start things off. It really kept, I think it got everyone's hopes up for a lot. And it was really well done. And I know I'm skipping over a lot. I'm trying to keep this as short as I possibly can because, again, this was a really long match. I do have problems, again, with the headshots that were happening. And something that was a motif throughout the night. We had a lot of unprotected headshots. We shouldn't be having that. Like, I thought WWE outlawed that. So I'd have to wonder what's going on there. Okay, our next match is the Tornado Tag match between Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns versus Eric Rowan and Luke Harper. Okay, again, I don't remember the last time we had one of these. Tornado match means all four members of the team are in the ring at the same time. There's no tagging, which makes it confusing. That's called the Tornado Tag match. It shouldn't be called a Tornado Team match. Anyway, right off the bat, all four men are in the ring at the same time. Bryan hits a missile dropkick onto Rowan, and then hits a suicide dive onto Harper. I think I goofed one of those up. Reigns tried to do a Samoan drop on Rowan, but Rowan fought out of that and hit a splash. But eventually, Rowan did come back and hit the Samoan drop. Harper tossed Bryan into the barricade. Basically, this was double team the match the whole time. They would either double team Roman Reigns or they would double team Daniel Bryan. In fact, I would say the last third or so of the match, it was strictly attacking Daniel Bryan. And Bryan would come back a little bit. He tried to lock Rowan in the label lock. He had a dropped hold and sent Harper into the turnbuckle. They started to fight back again. Reigns got knocked off the apron, and then Harper and Rowan were setting things up with the tables. And Rowan, picked up a chunk of the barricade wall and basically rammed that into Roman Reigns and knocked him into the crowd. They were going to, Harper and Rowan were going to do do a power bomb, basically a double power bomb onto Daniel Bryan, but Bryan fought out of that and hit a Hurricane Rana that sent Harper in basically off of the announce table, and then Reigns revived, got up, ran across the announce table and speared Rowan through it. That pretty much took Rowan out for the rest of the match. Harper did hit a power bomb from I think it was the second rope on Bryan, but Bryan managed to kick out of it, and basically the match ended with Bryan and Reigns hitting a Superman punch / running the spear combo for the 3 count of the victory. And then in the end, Bryan and Reigns stood in the ring. Roman offered his hand to Daniel Bryan as a handshake, but Bryan swore it off and said, nope, we have to hug, and so they did, and then they shook hands, and everyone was happy, I guess. Really good match, great spots with everything. Thankfully, not as many headshots in this one, or at all, at least not that I can think of, and again, I think they did a better job of telling their story than a lot of the other matches did tonight, unfortunately. Definitely leaves things kind of up in the air. I mean, a lot of people were saying this was probably going to lead towards Daniel Bryan turning on Roman Reigns, but at least not for the foreseeable future. I guess they're going to keep working together. Okay, and it's here that we hit the filler matches, and I do mean filler matches. First up is Ali versus Randy Orton. This match was made during the kickoff show because Randy Orton talked about how he's the one who's always kind of short-circuiting Ali's career, because every time Ali seems to Mustafa Ali keeps getting a break, Orton's there to sort of ruin it. Right off the bat, Orton hits a thumb to the eye. Orton pulled, Ali tried to do a top rope maneuver, but Orton pulled him off, and Ali tumbled to the outside of the ring. Orton hit a front suplex and then a back suplex onto the announce table. The announce tables really took a beating during this show. I mean, it's like every match, just about, except for the two Hell in a Cell matches, everyone was ripping apart the announce tables. Ali got a really big welt on his chest from that maneuver, by the way. Ali came back with a drop kick, followed with a suicide dive. Ali kicked Orton in the head and then hit a rolling face buster, basically the X Factor. Ali hit a basically springboard into a swinging DDT. Ali went for the 550, but Orton dodged it. Orton went for the RKO, and Ali actually, he blocked it. What he did was, when Orton grabbed him to go, grabbed him around the head to pull down for the RKO, Ali actually stuck his hands out and basically braced his fall, so that he didn't completely go down all the way to the mat, and did it kind of like a handstand to get out of it. And it seemed like that was a really good idea, and he went for his rolling facebuster again, but Orton immediately caught him and hit him with an RKO for the 3 count of the victory. And this match was completely pointless. It did nothing. It did not further Ali. It really didn't further Orton. Like I said, it did nothing. It was an okay match. Again, it was, I think, a box standard Randy Orton match. So it wasn't entirely disappointing, but it just, didn't add anything to this. And that leads us into our next match, which is the Women's Tag Team Championship match. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus the Kabuki Warriors of Asuka and Kairi Sane. And this is the funny thing here, because during the pre-show they interviewed Nikki and Alexa, and they were quite heelish at the beginning because they were none too happy to discover, oh yeah, you're defending the championships, because this thing was this is one of the matches that was announced like 2 hours before the show, and it's like, yeah, we didn't know we were doing that, and hey, and why? How did the Kabuki Warriors warrant this shot? Because they haven't really done anything. Because the Kabuki Warriors, for those of you who don't recall, were the team of Asuka and Kairi Sane, and they were announced by Paige after the SmackDown after WrestleMania that they were coming after the Iconics, and then they just kind of disappeared for a couple months. And then they showed up again, and they disappeared for another few weeks. And they showed up again, and they disappeared again. So it's like they really have not done much of anything. However, right off the bat, though, Asuka and Kairi Sane began acting heelish because Kairi Sane and Nikki Cross opened up, but Nikki Sane hit a thumb to the eye and then went after Alexa Bliss. Asuka tagged in. Again, knocked Alexa Bliss off the apron after Alexa crawled back up. Nikki Cross tangled Asuka up in the ring apron, and Bliss hit a baseball drop kick. Alexa hit a kick and then threw Alexa into the barricade. Asuka tangled Alexa Bliss up in the ropes for an octopus hold. She put on a knee bar and a half crab. Eventually, Nikki Cross got the hot tag and went for a crossbody on Kairi Sane. Cross countered the insane elbow, got her knees up for it. She hit her slingshot neckbreaker finisher, but Asuka broke up the pin. Asuka then managed to get tagged into the match. Kairi Sane slipped out of the ring, again distracted Alexa Bliss long enough for Nikki to get up, and Asuka pulled out an old trick, the green mist. The green mist has a tradition in Japan. There's the different colored mists. Green, I believe, blinds. Red is paralytic. And I believe black is supposed to be, quote, deadly. It started with a wrestler in Japan known as the Great Kabuki. He was the first to do it. In other words, like, obviously, Tajiri did it, Yoshihiro Tajiri, and the Great Muda also. So yeah, like I said, the Kabuki Warriors getting kind of heelish themselves and finally winning the championships. She got hit with the mist, sort of. They didn't quite time it right because it looked like the idea with the mist is it's supposed to all hit you and you're supposed to have this big green splotch on your face. But clearly, one, Nikki had her hands up, and two, it like barely hit her because it's like there's little bits of it all over here, but it's not in the big splotch that you normally see. But yeah, it was enough to disorient Nikki to get pinned for the 3 count and the victory for the Kabuki Warriors. Like I said, unfortunately, not a spectacular match. Only spectacular by the ending. The rest is just kind of... The filler matches were very much filler matches. They did nothing to add anything. Okay, continuing on with our filler matches, we have a 6-man tag match. The OC of AJ Styles, Carl Anderson, and Luke Gallows against the Viking Raiders and a mystery partner who turned out to be Braun Strowman. Yeah, again, not really much to say here on this match at all. I mean, there were a couple of decent things that happened early on. Eric of the Viking Raiders was kind of pinned in the corner by the OC, and he's fighting his way back, and he knocks Carl Anderson back, and he knocks Luke Gallows back, and he turns to hit AJ Styles. But AJ Styles is actually willingly rolled out of the ring and is standing, has come off the apron. He's literally just standing on the floor, and he just waves hello. It was enough to allow the OC to get the advantage back. Eventually, Strowman basically gets the hot tag. He splashes Styles in the corner a couple of times. Strowman shoulder blocks all members of the OC on the outside, but then, as this is happening, Styles dodged a charging Strowman who hit his shoulder on the ring post, and then he chop blocked him, and then he went for the calf crusher for a bit, but Strowman fought out, and then Carl Anderson chopped him, and then all 3 members of the OC ganged up on him, and they called the match a DQ. Yeah, here's the funny thing that happened. As they're beating him up, the Viking Raiders get back in the ring. They fight off the OC. AJ Styles goes for the phenomenal forearm, but then Strowman catches him with a right and knocks him unconscious. And this is obviously supposed to be alluding to what happened with Tyson Fury on SmackDown. And again, like, why couldn't you have just worked that into the match? Why couldn't you have, Anderson and Gallows beat on Strowman, then suddenly the Viking Raiders get back in, break it all up, AJ goes for the normal forearm, and Strowman wins with a knockout punch. You could have just done that. Why did you have to go with the DQ route? Again, this was already a meaningless match. You just made it sound more meaningless. Anyway, the next match after that is King Corbin versus Chad Gable. Right off the bat, Corbin grabs the mic and he says his first act as king is to dub Chad Gable Shorty. From now on, he will be known as Shorty Gable. And Gable came back. He countered with a wheel kick. Gable did some stuff early on. He locked on an ankle lock. He tried to do a knee bar. Gable went for a sunset flip, then Corbin punched him. Corbin had a lariat. At this point, Corbin took over the match for the most part. But Gable came back. He hit his rolling German suplex. Corbin hit a deep 6. Corbin went for the end of days, but Gable countered that into a swinging neck breaker and then a moonsault. Corbin came back, hit his choke slam in the ring apron, and then in the midst of that, Corbin then rolled out of the ring and grabbed the scepter. He was going to hit Gable with it, but the ref pulled it out of Corbin's hands, and that enabled Gable to get a roll-up victory for the 3 count of the victory. Afterwards, Gable was interviewed, and he said he's okay with being called Shorty because now whenever someone mischaracterizes him, he'll show him who the bigger man really is, and then Corbin jumped him. At least in this case, this did further a storyline, and they did a really good job. The difference is, they're trying to make Chad Gable look weak, and it's like, I've seen him deadlift Big E up for a German suplex. I've seen him deadlift Rusev up for a German suplex. I've seen him deadlift much bigger guys. So I know how strong he is. It's like you can't suddenly be telling people he's really weak. Um, I, I don't like the shorty gimmick at all. It's gonna really come back to bite him. Okay, and so our second to last match of the evening is the SmackDown Women's Championship match, Bayley versus Charlotte Flair. Charlotte was mocking Bayley by counting 10 for her eventual 10 championship reigns. Uh, um, and Bayley, show was in Sacramento, which is not too far from Pamela Martinez's hometown of San Jose, so she got the local pop, and again, because it's the hometown match, guess what? Uh-oh. Um, Bayley, early on, Charlotte dodged a clothesline and a neck breaker. She dodged a crossbody and locked on a Boston Crab. But Bayley poked Charlotte in the eye. A lot of eye poking in this show. She pulled Charlotte off of the ring apron and onto the ground and then smashed Charlotte's knee into the LED board. Charlotte came back and actually targeted Bayley's knee in the same way. Bayley wrapped Charlotte's leg around the ring post, so now both women were selling knee injuries. Bayley tried to do the figure four on Charlotte, but Charlotte caught her with a thumb to the eye. Again, thumb to the eye show. Charlotte hit a natural selection. Charlotte went for the moonsault, but Bayley got her knees up and blocked it. Bayley tried to... what did I write here? I'm sorry. Tried to use the ropes for leverage for a pin, but the ref caught her, and then enabled Charlotte to hit a big boot and then lock on the figure eight. Bayley eventually tapped out, and then much like Sasha earlier, they focused on Bayley. She didn't go up to the ring crying. She threw a big fit and sat on the outside of the ring, and when the refs came to help her, she shooed them away, and they showed her crying in the same manner because they knew, knowing that she really blew it. Not as good as the earlier Women's Championship match. Maybe put a little bit ahead of Natalya and Lacey Evans, but overall I'd say it was entertaining. I'm not entirely thrilled with Charlotte having the championship again. Just I'd like a little bit more time maybe before that happened, but I guess they're going to build to a Survivor Series tag match between the four horsewomen, I guess. I don't know anything about Survivor Series because right now they're pimping Crown Jewel, and I'm not reviewing Crown Jewel because I've learned my lesson from the Saudi shows. I don't care if it's we're getting Cain Velasquez versus Brock Lesnar. I'm not reviewing it unless someone pays me to. Hint, hint, Patreon. And that leads us into what the match, unfortunately, that subsumed this show, the Hell in a Cell match for the Universal Championship, Seth Rollins versus The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. Funny thing, unlike the Women's Championship match, in this case, the cage was lowered before the match started. Basically, when both competitors came down to the ring, the cage was already down on the floor. Also, the whole match was bathed in a red light for some reason. I don't remember them doing this for the Fiend versus Finn Balor match from SummerSlam, but okay. Right off the bat, the Fiend went for the mandible claw. Seth Rollins got out of the ring. He grabbed a kendo stick and hit the Fiend, but it didn't affect him at all. Eventually, Seth managed to get a few licks in, but then the Fiend came back with a Wyatt hit a Uranagi. Rollins got sent off the side, thrown off the cell wall. Again, Rollins begins to fight back. He gets a couple of super kicks. He picked up the ring steps and hit the Fiend, and that seemed to finally affect him. Again, sending off the cell wall. I'm sorry, I'm tired. Rollins countered Wyatt super kick, and then hit a super kick, got Wyatt onto a table, and then hit a frog splash. Rollins hit the stomp, but there was no effect. And this is where things fall apart, unfortunately. Rollins hits the stomp on the Fiend, no effect at all. He gets right back up. Rollins comes back, he hits him a couple times, and then he hits another stomp, and another stomp, and another stomp, and he's literally just spamming his move. He hits it 4 times, 5 times. He covers, and it's only a 1 count. And then the Fiend kicks out at 1. And then he hits another stomp, and then a pedigree, and then another stomp. Fiend kicks out at 1 again. And now Rollins is snapping. He's taking, and we have another unprotected chair shot to the head. Repeatedly unprotected chair shots to the head. He takes a ladder and he throws the ladder into the chair. He puts the chair into the ladder for some reason and bounces that off of him. And he hits another stomp and covers. Bray kicks out at 2 at this time. And then Rollins snaps. He finds a sledgehammer. And then he hits Wyatt with the sledgehammer and the ref calls for the bell. And everyone is pissed because Hell in a Cell matches are supposed to be no DQ and you just called for a disqualification. This is the second time this has happened. If you recall, you had the Shane McMahon Miz Steel Cage match that had a rope break in a match that there's not supposed to be any rope breaks in. Boy, and not to mention you've completely, made the stomp look useless as a finisher now. It's dead because you had Bray Wyatt no sell. It's one thing if he kicks out at 2 once, but when he's doing it, he's kicking out at 1 and he's doing it multiple times, and Rollins is continuously hitting 1, 2, 3, 4 stomps in a row. It's like you've completely neutralized it. I mean, that's one of the reasons why the super kick has gotten so pointless in recent years, and I do kind of fall on the side of Jim Cornette in the Cornette versus the Young Bucks debate. Like, you keep hitting super kicks, which is supposed to be a finisher. When you hit 40 super kicks you've made the super kick look stupid because now it looks like it won't actually hurt people. It's the same thing that happened in this match. And again, the annoying red light throughout all of this. Now, afterwards they tried to pull this through. Like, it looked like the Fiend was actually unconscious, but then suddenly, as the stretcher came out, the Fiend popped back up and put Rollins in the mandible claw, and then he hit the Sister Abigail on the outside of the ring a couple of times. He exposed the concrete, hit Sister Abigail. He then locked on the mandible claw again, and the last image we ever see of Seth Rollins is him coughing up blood. And then the show fades to black. We get another flash of the Fiend's face, and then the Chiron comes up for copyright. And yeah, that's how this ended. Unfortunately, yeah. I was actually kind of digging the match a little bit, and of course the constant spamming of the finishers and everything. It's like, okay, I can see where people are getting tired of this and where it's falling apart. So, yeah, I saw this on tape delay. Again, it just, unfortunately, this already kind of killed the show. Like, the women, pretty much all the women's matches were great, and yeah, exception of one of the tag. I mean, unfortunately, the filler matches, the main event, it didn't buoy the show at all. The show was poorly promoted. There was almost no excitement, and it doesn't help too that they want to do the draft this week as well. Like, I know you want to. Could you maybe rejigger things a little bit? You could have gotten a little bit more on here. I think, more time to build storylines. This should have been a mid-October show, not an early October show. And yeah, I know they want to do Crown Jewel too, but yeah, again, it really has not worked at all. I am going to be giving Hell in a Cell 2019 a D. Okay, so next video should be a review of the Addams Family. Unfortunately, we are slated to be getting a snowstorm this week. So, hopefully, weather permitting, there will be an Addams Family review and a Gemini Man review. The Gemini Man review will probably be on Saturday, and then on Friday, the Addams Family review will probably be up Friday. Saturday will be round 1, the SmackDown round of the WWE draft. Then Friday, Sunday will be the Gemini Man review, and then Monday or Tuesday, to be more precise, will be the Raw half of the draft. Hopefully you got all that. See you all next time.
Are you tired of me constantly talking only about WWE and NXT? Want to see me expand my wrestling coverage? Check out my Patreon at Sleepy Time for Cat Productions. Also, remember, if you like the video, give it a like, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.